Lucas, can you thumbs up if you can see my screen now?
Loading. All right, it's working
Okay,
now.
great. Hello, everyone. Sorry that we don't have some like really fun pump up music. I was hoping for that, but technical difficulties left and right on this Friday. Happy almost third annual 2025 Capitol Hill visit. Everyone here is part of a larger group of folks that are heading to DC from March 10th to 12th to meet with legislators and tell them about CHWs and get our policy asks met. We have a packed agenda today, and I've had some internal health issues that have led to some folks needing to step away. So please be patient with us as we have switched things around a few times. And let's get going. Before we get started, we have some housekeeping up top. Catherine, as the Zoom owner, hopefully you can put on interpreter. I don't have ability to do that right now, apparently. So for everyone here, oh, and Carmen is coming in, our interpreter, so that should work quickly. So for everyone here, you can turn on automated captions. Hopefully this visual helps you figure out where that is. That'll help you have a transcript if you would like. And then you can also select interpretation. Everyone, please select interpretation, not just whether you speak Spanish, but English or Spanish. So if there's translation back and forth, everyone can hear. Catherine is gonna do that on Zoom in a moment, just going into the interpreter box at the
That
bottom.
should be all set.
Thank you. Um, so you have probably seen emails from a few of us about this event, so just wanted to reiterate the people who will be here supporting you from today through our time in DC, ending at the end of March 12th. So from NACHW, that's Catherine and Angie, who won't be here today, but will be back with us, and some other NACHW staff who you'll get to meet. And then from Partners in Health United States, that's me, Allie, and Lucas Allen, and some other PIH-US staff. In general, if you have questions, and we'll go over who to contact, but it'll be Catherine, Angie, Lucas, and myself. And then our colleagues from Soapbox are here to help us with some legislative meetings. That's Christopher and Kevin and some of their colleagues. So we are very excited to get started with all of you, but first we have a few more housekeeping just to collect some incredible, important feedback and get some terms and conditions overviewed. So, Catherine, I'm going to switch to the Qualtrics.
Thank you, Allie, and thank you, everybody. So many of you who I've talked to today throughout the day on different occasions for different things. But I first want to say thank you to everybody who took some time to stop by our open office hours. We had a really good group of folks turned out. I know things have been a little bit frustrating in terms of getting all the timely information that you need around so many logistic information around this event, but your grace and your patience has been wonderful. So thank you so much for that. In the email that was sent out this morning as a reminder for this training, it also included information about our pre-survey. As you guys know, we are navigating through uncharted waters, but our main focus and our commitment is to make sure that this event is able to meet the needs of the participants, of our NACHW members, and ensure that as we're thinking about ways to get you the information and the resources that you need, we're hearing directly from you. So that being said, we have set up a pre-survey that we would really, really appreciate you to take 5 minutes to just fill out through the jot form. We really want to make sure that our efforts are meeting your needs, that the learning materials are accessible, and that everything that we are doing to support you in this event is really preparing you and setting you up for success. So Lucas, thank you so much for dropping the link to the pre-event survey. If folks can take a few minutes to complete that, that would be great. And we'll be definitely looking at the outcomes and the responses and making sure that as we continue to design this event to meet closely your needs, we continue to improve. So thank you for that.
Thank you. While we give you all time to do that, I'm going to try again with some audio, just so you all have a few moments to do this. It's really helpful. So pausing while I do that. I'm putting again in the chat the pre-survey and then the terms and conditions, please.
And I'll just voice over while Allie's pulling that up. The terms and conditions, I have seen that folks have already started submitting your acceptance. I really, really appreciate that. The terms and condition is really the document set up so folks really understand what are we doing with this information that we've collected along the way, from your applications to informations that we've asked for you for the survey. We want to be really transparent in the partnership that it is NACHW and Partners in Health on our third annual event. So even though you guys have seen us at the forefront for the last 3 years, it's really important to really shed light and transparency on what we're doing with the information that we collect, who are we sharing it with, and how we're going to safeguard your information. Also important things to note in the terms and condition is you've given us the authorization where we plan to take pictures and videos and make sure that we're really highlighting the movement. So really understanding that really is the sole purpose of us collecting those images and likeness of folks participating in this event. If you have any questions about the terms and conditions, or there anything in there that you need further clarification on, please feel free to reach out directly to me. I'm happy to walk you through any concerns, any questions, but also want to highlight that we do have a cutoff of February 28th for participants, the ones that have accepted scholarships and the ones that will be joining us in DC on their own, for you to be able to complete the terms and conditions for us to confirm participation in this event. So please keep in mind that February 28th is the cutoff time, and I will make myself available for folks if you have any questions before submitting your acceptance.
Thank
How we
you,
doing, Allie?
Catherine. No, that's great. And I have the music teed up for later. But also hello to everyone who's watching this recording on your couch. Happy to hang out with you on this lovely time. And thank you everyone here to join. We are going to be passing to Denise now that we've gotten some housekeeping out of the way. Denise, please kick off this event.
Hello, family. Hello, leaders. What's up from across the country? Come on, get your energy up. Come on, get your hope up. Come on, get your power up. Come on, get your joy up. Come on, get your fight up. Come on. I know you still have it. I know you still have it, or else you would not have said yes. What's up, Joanna? What's up, 2025, the year of Cape Verdean independence? What's up, Essie, Monique? Good to see you. Israel, very good to see you. Board members, founders, partners, love each and every one of you. Allies, CHWs, promotores, doulas, outreach workers, health equity advocates. It is wonderful, wonderful to see you all. What's up, Regina? I see you. So many of you are not on camera, which is good for me, so I don't have to scroll through everyone. But I'm grateful to be here. I'm truly, truly grateful. I am so grateful to be alive during this time, because I feel like this is what I'm called to do, to be in community with all of you, to say yes to my values, to say yes to my community, to say yes to this movement. And I will never forget, the dreamers are in the house. Thank you, Ricardo. will never forget that the founders gave me this opportunity, right? And they took a chance on little old me to come on and work for NACHW and to advance the movement. And now look at how our community has grown. That's because of each and every one of you. So let's give it a clap it up. I may not be able to hear you, but I can see you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for growing this community. Yes, the hearts are up. Okay, y'all know they only gave me a few minutes and I have a lot of things to share, okay? So just bear with me, okay? I'm going to say a couple of things about where NACHW is in this moment, okay? All of us are in this moment. It's February 21st. Someone said to me, January was a long year. Okay. Well, we're in February already. And I know you may or may not have heard from us because you've been busy doing your own thing. What's up, Chauncey? I see you. Thank you for your leadership. I want to tell you three things about NACHW and what we're doing right now. If you're not a member, if you're not that close to us, I just want you to understand in this moment of incredible change, seismic change, who is NACHW in this moment? Okay. Number one, we are staying the course. Okay. We're not going anywhere. We're not changing our mission. We're not changing our vision. We're not changing our approaches. We are here just as we have been for the past almost 6 years. April will be our 6th anniversary. Number two, we are committed to and we are sharing factual, actionable information, training to support all of you as CHWs or allies, your organizations, and your communities, whoever they are, wherever they are. And I want to give a shout out. CHW Connector is a great place to do that because every day we have a lot of urgent updates. That community is growing. It's a free app for CHWs by CHWs. Number three, we're leaning into our partnerships. We're not running from our partners. You know what I'm saying? This is not a time to run and hide, and it's not a time to be alone. We want to support you and what you're doing. That means we need to hear from you. Okay. And I know you're busy. I know you got a lot going on. I want you to look for an upcoming survey that you'll see in our general newsletter. And I want you to get into community with us. One of the ways you can do that is by consistently attending the National CHW Policy Working Group. Okay. I want to give you that shout out. Community of people wrestling with language and bills and impact and data and legislation and advocacy and messaging and training and movement building. All right. Let's lean in. Okay. It's so important. Our partners are more important than ever. And I'm doing a webinar March 5th. So when I'm done talking, I'll put that link in the chat. Listen, the new federal administration has identified several priorities. Now, I don't know if you can keep up with them all, okay? There's a lot going on, and I don't even know if they're all coherent. That's me. Okay, I'm gonna leave that one alone. Hard to put them all together into one sort of coherent vision. I certainly can't articulate it. But I want to say something, I want to say two things to you. Number one, problem equals opportunity. I just want you to let that center you in this moment. You're here because you're a problem solver. You're here because you don't run from problems. You're here because you've lived through problems. You're here because you walk with others through problems. So with all that is going on, and it is way bigger than any of us, I want you to bring it down to a very, very concrete level. This problem is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to be authentically who you are. It's an opportunity for you to tell a story that no one has heard, that someone needs to hear. It's an opportunity for you to stand, just stand. And I was thinking about this in the context of there's a great quote that Toni Morrison gave us, and I put it into LinkedIn. I don't know how many y'all follow me on LinkedIn or how many of y'all have seen the LinkedIn post, but it struck me because I thought about Toni Morrison's leadership, and I thought this is a moment for us to truly remember that this is a long game. This is not about a short game. Okay, so I want to read you this quote, and then I want to give you three things, and then I'm going to just get out of the way. Toni Morrison wrote, "The function, the very serious function of racism is distraction. It keeps you from doing your work." How many of you have stopped in the last month? How many of you have been unable to do your work because of some phone call, some email, some meeting, something happening? It keeps you from doing your work. But you know what it does? It keeps you explaining over and over and over again. You have to explain your reason for being. And I know a lot of us feel like that right now, which is why many of us, had to really think about this moment and this Hill Day. Do I really want to go down and explain my reason for being? This is what Toni Morrison says this is like. Somebody says, "You have no language." And so you spend the next 20 years proving that you do. Somebody says, "Your head isn't shaped properly." So you have scientists working on the fact that it is. Somebody says, "You have no art." So you dredge that up. Somebody says, "You have no kingdoms, you have no history." So you dredge that up. And you know what? None of this is necessary, because there's always going to be one more thing. This is not about us proving who we are. This is not about that. We are not going to the Hill to prove who we are. We're going to the Hill to celebrate who we are. We're going to the Hill to tell our stories, and no one can take away your story of survival, your story of thriving, your story of impact. They cannot take it. Oh my gosh, last year we were in DC, and Chauncey told us a great story of moving through DC and interacting with some young children from his home. I can't say hometown, but certainly from Hawaii. And it was an amazing moment of impact that was unexpected. He imprinted on the lives and futures of other children. You don't know who you're going to run into in the hallway, in the bathroom, eating lunch, in the hotel. But this moment is yours. This moment is ours to be who we are and to celebrate. Finally, I want to give an enormous, enormous shout out to Catherine, Allie, Lucas, Angie. Oh my gosh, the whole NACHW staff in the background doing what they do. Tasha, oh my gosh, sitting with leaders and coordinating, to our founders, to our board. Listen, our board has been thinking about you. We're not just going down to the Hill. We met about this moment. We talked about the sobriety, the seriousness, the risks of this moment. And you know what the board said? The board said, "Oh yes, we're going to DC." So I want you to know NACHW has your back. Our board, our staff, we have your back. We want to celebrate you. We want to give you a moment to shine. We want to give you capacity, resources, tools, language if you need it. But you know what to do because you know what your communities need. I love each and every one of you, and I mean that. This is that agape love. I don't have to know all about you to want the best for you, and I do. I'm praying that all is well with you, your families, and your communities. Let's have a great training. Let's keep our energy up. Let's remember all the people who can't make it to DC. And so for Diane and Essie and Dina and Honey and April and Michelle and Beatrice and Tasha, Joanna, Ricardo, for Olinda, Kim, all of you, you're representing beautiful lives, okay? Let's do it for them. Let's do it for this movement. Okay. And I look forward to seeing you in DC. Be well.
Thank you, Denise. Always. I needed that. I don't know if everyone else needed that. So thank you for everything. And yeah, let's get this training started, folks. I mean, it already has started, but like, let's get into some content. So we can hopefully have your questions answered. We know we have a lot of info that's about to come your way. This is recorded. You can watch it every night before bed if you so choose. And let's do it. So, what are we covering in the next hour? A lot. The purpose and goals for the third annual CHW Capitol Hill visit in DC, March 10th to March 12th. The agenda, logistics, safety tips, figuring out your legislative meeting schedule and hearing from Soapbox and their resources. The overview of our policy asks that we will ask legislators to support. How to prepare for a meeting, how to research your legislators, and some materials that we will provide you with to prep for those meetings. We'll also do a quick overview of your CHW story that you can tell to legislators, just like Denise was saying, your story, your experience. No one can take that from you. So how do we support you in sharing that? We'll have some time for Q&A, some next steps, and then we'll get going. It's in the slides, it's in the training, but here are some of the objectives today. We want you to be able to describe the purpose of this event, get some more agenda, logistics, locate resources, get some tools for storytelling as an advocacy tool. I've said tool enough. What we will not be covering today and what we will be covering in future trainings, because we will be having another in-person training in DC on March 10th at the Marriott Courtyard, Washington. You'll get the address when Catherine goes over it shortly. In that training, we will go deeper into the purpose, the logistics, some more resources, some more practicing of storytelling, more confidence building. We got this. You can meet with legislators and so much more. And of course, now my screen is frozen, but you know, another day, another technical difficulty. So let's figure this one out. Oh, there we have it, folks. Okay, did that. Okay, Lucas, it's for you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lucas. I'm a CHW ally. I work with Allie with Partners in Health United States. And we're just so honored to be here with you all and to work with NACHW on this exciting event. And I don't think there's much to add from what Denise has said about why this event is so important. It's our third year doing this. It's already led to some really impactful change in very tangible ways. And this is the long game, right? So this is part of a process to get the policies that we need, to get the legislative awareness and celebration of community health workers that we need for the communities that we work with and what they need, right? So this is a time where we're all going to meet directly with members of Congress and their staff. Again, sometimes it's even more effective to meet with the staff. They're the ones that do a lot of the actual work, right? And educate them about community health workers, share stories that are going to stick with them. And by sharing those personal experiences, your expertise, your experience, you're going to help those policymakers at the national or federal level understand why community health workers are so important. And when they go to write these bills, they're going to have you in mind. They're going to have a connection to you. And the event, the impact of this day is not only had on March 11th, it's had throughout the year. Allie, you can go to the next slide. So we always like to reiterate this, that the folks who represent you in Congress, it's their job to represent you, right? They work for you. Their salaries are paid by the taxpayers, and they need to listen to you. You have the right to be heard. And this is regardless of citizenship status, immigration status, living as a constituent in an area, the elected officials, you have a right to have your voice heard with them. And this is an opportunity to have that voice heard, to make that personal connection, and really to build the long-term relationships with the legislators. And part of the reason for this training, and even more so the training that we're giving on Monday night before we all go to the Hill on Tuesday, is to give the unified message that's going to make this impactful, right? Because we all know they're hearing from a lot of different groups, right? There's special interests, powerful interests. When we go up there, we're going to be singing from the same song sheet and having an impact across all of Congress. And that's really where the power comes from. And we're going to provide you with all the tools needed to make that impact happen. You know, one of the stories of impact that I think about a lot is an attendee from last year who developed this connection with the legislative staff who she met with. And then later that year, in December or in the fall, that member of Congress reached back out to her and said, I'm working on a bill to combat social isolation, and thought about community health workers, and reached out to this community health worker and invited them into the process of writing this bill. And that's something that just wouldn't happen without this event, this impact, and these connections that are going to be made on March 11th and are going to be followed up and developed following the event. So we're just so excited to get into that. But I think next we're going to cover some of the logistics. So Ali, if you can go to the next slide. And Catherine, I'll pass it over to you.
Hi, everybody. I just want to clap it up again for Denise. Brought so much energy and spirit into this moment, very much needed. But I know logistics is at least a pain point for a lot of us as we're trying to figure out so much and coordinate a lot. So wanted to take this opportunity to just give folks an update on where we are with a tentative draft agenda. It's still tentative because, as folks know, and I've been very transparent, there's a lot of moving pieces still, but for the most part, we have a lot of things that are solidified, and we wanted to bring it to your attention. So on Monday, March 10th is when we start kicking off our agenda. From 3 to 5, the network leaders are going to convene. That location is still to be determined. Tasha Whitaker, who is the project lead on that, is going to be providing more information as those details are confirmed. So please be in the lookout for an invitation from Tasha if you will be invited to join that convening for the network leaders. And then a Monday at night, we are asking everybody to arrive in DC before 6 o'clock, preferably before 5. So that way you will be able to participate in the mandatory training in person from 6 to 8. This is really the training that we get into the nitty gritty of our talking points, making sure folks have all of their legislative schedules. Soapbox will be with us in person as well, which is always really helpful to help navigate if we need to switch things around and making sure people have the information that they need for the next day. So really important, as if you haven't confirmed your travel plans, is that you are planning to arrive in DC on March 10th before 6 p.m. And that meeting space, I just wanted to clarify, because in the agenda that folks have in their email, it hasn't been updated, but we have confirmed that the meeting space will be at the Courtyard by Marriott, located on 1325 2nd Street, Northeast Washington, D.C. I've also provided that information in the latest email that went out, and I will continue to provide that information in all of the future communication that's going on leading up to Hill Day. And then on Tuesday, March 11th, we have set aside that meeting space from 7 to 8:15. This is an optional time, not mandatory, but we know sometimes folks have their flights delayed. There might be some issues the night before getting all of your training materials. You might have downloaded all that information on Monday and then wake up Tuesday morning like, oh my God, everything fell out of my head, I need additional support. So we want to make sure that you know that NACHW and PIH and Soapbox will be available between 7 a.m. and 8:15 to huddle with folks, and also talk through any logistical support that you might need leading up to our trip to the Hill. That will also be at the Courtyard by Marriott. We plan on making our way to Capitol Hill no later than 8:50. The ideal situation is that the majority of us will be meeting during that 7 to 8:15, and then we can all walk over together, or some folks might Uber over together. But ideally, we want to make sure that we are at Capitol Hill by 8:50. I'm sorry, that we are leaving the Marriott Hotel by 8:50 and arriving at Capitol Hill for our rally at 9 a.m. The location of the rally is still being determined, so we'll continue to provide those updates, but just wanted to give folks the time frames between 9 and 9:30 is when we plan on having that rally. At 9:30 to 9:45, we want to do our staple group picture that we've taken on the stairs the last 2 years, which seems to make its way around the world. It just shows a lot of impact, and people get really excited about it. So we want to make sure that folks, oh, did we lose? There's the picture. Look how great we look. Chauncey, those glasses really, you did your thing there with the sunglasses. So that's an example of what we're going to be, how we're going to be gathered at the Hill for that group picture. We typically are always over by the U.S. Capitol Visitor Center. We usually convene on the lawn. There will be more coordination there, but that's where folks should plan to be if you want to participate in the group picture. 10 a.m. meetings with lawmakers are going to begin. So remember, all of these meetings that you are being scheduled with Soapbox, these are required meetings. If you are in DC, you are with us, we must attend your meeting. So I think it's really important to the questions that you have on Monday night, the questions you might have on Tuesday morning about your schedule. Please make sure that you feel comfortable with your schedule, you know who you're meeting, and you know where to go, because we don't want to arrive late to our meetings, and we want to make sure that we have enough coordination that you know if it's on the U.S. House or the Senate side of the offices. 12 o'clock, we break for lunch. Lunch is on your own. One of the things I love about the Hill, they have 2 really big cafeterias, and Soapbox is awesome enough to map all of that out for folks. So you'll have all that information of where to get lunch on site, and then that way you can easily convene your afternoon meetings, which will kick off at 1 o'clock and can go as far as 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And again, that will be coordinated through the U.S. House or Senate offices. We will end our day. I know we've heard from a few folks that have shared interest in having additional networking opportunities or would like to convene. We would love to support those efforts and making sure that we're connecting you to the other participants. We haven't set up or scheduled anything, just want to be respectful that it is a jam-packed day. But we definitely encourage folks that want to grab dinner together or want to meet within the respective hotels that they have. This is a great opportunity to take advantage of being in person and being able to build those relationships. So for Wednesday, Wednesday is an optional day in terms of the activities that we have set up. We understand the folks that have received scholarships, you've been slated for one night. So Tuesday, you would be expected to check out, even though the hotel can hold your luggage, so you can attend your meetings, unless you book an additional night from Tuesday to Wednesday. That's why we've made these activities on Wednesdays non-mandatory. But at 10 a.m., we are looking to have our congressional briefing, which will be moderated by our amazing CHW panel. We're going to have really thoughtful discussions and remarks from lawmakers. We're still working on the exact location, so there will be more information to come. But this is one of the real highlights, I think, of this event, where you're really able to get a lot of people in the same room that are willing and alert and willing to listen to the CHW story and hear and learn more about us. So it's a really great opportunity to really drive that impact. It's a great opportunity for the visibility of all of as much CHWs as we can to pack the room. And it's been really successful the last 2 years. So for folks that are able to join, please, please, please join us for the congressional briefing. It's really a staple of this event. And as always, your input, your feedback, the debrief, hearing from you and how this experience was in real time is always super important. So we have added an optional debrief for participants who will still be in DC on Wednesday afternoon to participate in the discussion around, what you learned from your legislative meetings. Would love to hear about the glows. Would love to hear about some deltas and things of that nature. And also we want to, in real time, use that energy to talk about next steps. What are we doing when we get back home and how do we continue to activate our advocacy? So I hope that is a good overview of the tentative agenda. We continue to have open office hours on Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Folks should have calendar invites. So if things are changing, I'm happy to connect with folks during that time and answer your questions. And I will continue to send the updated agenda as we get these pieces confirmed. And that is it from me. Allie, I'll pass it back to you, or Lucas.
Thank you, Catherine. That's good. I put this in the chat, but since I have the mic, I'm just gonna say this out loud too. In my doom scrolling last night, I came across a funny quote. I'm not endorsing this person. I don't know them. I don't know their stuff, but it said, quote, I just saw someone post on TikTok that said, I called my senator today and his voicemail box was full. So I emailed him and said, I don't appreciate not being able to reach my employee. And that is the energy we need. These are elected officials. They're elected by us to represent us, and we're going to tell them what we need in Congress because they are employees. However, I would say for the purpose of this event, please don't tell them they're your employees. But like we can keep that amongst us. But it's a good mindset, right? So thank you for humoring me on that. Speaking of how to feel going into meetings, comfortability, recognizing particularly the climate we're in, I'm going to pass it back to Denise to talk about safety on the Hill. And yeah.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I must admit, I was responding to a couple of emails, but I heard all of the updates and the itinerary. I'm excited to see you all. And yes, we need you to show up to each and every one of your meetings. For how many, maybe you could just put in the chat, for how many of you it's really your first time going down to the Capitol and spending time with your legislators? I'm just going to open up the chat so I can see it. First, if it's your first time. Okay, Kim, yep, Monique, Regina, okay, Kiara, wow, Aaron, oh my gosh, wow, Sarah, okay, wow, Yamboni, Omar, what? This is incredible. Okay, first, let me just celebrate the great work of whoever reviewed all those applications. We really wanted to get a lot of people for whom it was their first time. Okay, and I don't want you to worry too much about the environment. I want you to stay connected. I want to think about just maybe 2 or 3 things that I think is important for you to think about when you're meeting with your legislator. NACHW, we spend a lot of time thinking about the national perspective. And so sometimes we speak in broad strokes, right? Because we have diverse members in all 50 states and many indigenous tribes, et cetera, et cetera. But we're asking you to come and engage your legislator, right, where you live, okay? In Puerto Rico, Illinois, California, Arkansas, okay? So I want you to take a moment and I want you to think about where you live. I want you to think about your area. I want you to think about your district, where your representative is. I want you to think about your senators. Really take a moment. My first question is, do you know who they are? It's an important question. If you don't know who they are, you are already behind. Why? Why is that important? How do you have a conversation with someone? How do you greet someone? How do you find common ground if you don't know anything about your legislators? Okay? Right? Now, I'm going to challenge each of you. Okay? I'm from Connecticut. Our legislators have not changed in a long time. Our senators, our representatives, I've met them multiple times, okay? But for some of you, you've undergone some seismic change. Okay, so for some they're brand new and you're really just trying to learn about them. I want to challenge you. What's the bridge? What's the bridge? The connection that you intend to make when you step inside that office? What is it? What do you know about what that legislator has voted for recently? And again, they may be brand new. What can you thank them for? Oh, I'm going to challenge you. What can you thank them for? Let me tell you, I went to meet with a legislator, and the only thing I could find in common, this was not in my state, but the only thing I could find in common was that this person, for some reason, loved firefighters. Okay. Now, my husband is a retired firefighter. And so my bridge was, you know what? Before we get started, I'd like to thank you for your support of firefighters. My husband is a firefighter, 27 years. Oh, really? Yes. Where does he serve? Oh, he's in TAC 1. He works at Engine 14 in Hartford, Connecticut. Oh, I know something. What is your bridge? Think about it now. As CHWs, every person you encounter, you don't know, you don't live their life. You're not always the same person. There's always relationship building, and it's important for you to find a bridge. Okay. Number two, for a good number of you, we're going to assume that there is a different understanding of the role of government, the role of public health, the role of community-based organizations, right? The terminology of equity, the terminology of the elimination, the eradication of disparities, the terminology or the vision of health being a human right. Think about the language that you hear every day, every week, every month. Think about how you write emails and who you partner with and how when you get on calls, many times you're speaking the same language. I want to challenge you, as I have challenged many public health leaders across this country in the last several weeks. We are accountable for the fact that during COVID, many people did not understand the role of public health. Many people did not trust public health because public health had done a poor job connecting to community, speaking with the community, not just in a transactional way, in a relational way, in a way that is mutually beneficial. So how do you begin to develop common language? I went into one office and they said, you know what? We can't use the phrase social determinants of health. We use the phrase non-medical community-based services. And I thought, brother, that's the easiest shift you've ever given me. I really don't care what that phrase is. Are we talking about housing? Are we talking about food? Are we talking about healthcare coverage? If that's what we're talking about, we can find common language. And I'm not going to fight you over the phrase social determinants of health. I want you to think about the fights you're prepared to fight, those that are based on your values, the things you cannot move on. See, we cannot move on our values, dignity and respect for all human beings. We cannot move on some values. But language, as you've seen in this current administration, is a pretty fluid creature. And you're going to have to understand the language of the legislators that you engage. Know something about them. Okay? I think Soapbox is going to do an incredible job helping you to pivot in real time. I've seen their slide deck, and they have some really good strategies for some of you who may feel stuck, some of you who may feel challenged. But let me just talk to you about a few things that we know. We know that this administration, now that there is a secretary of HHS, we know that this administration is launching a Make America Healthy Again Commission. If you've heard about that, just wave, or, if you haven't heard about it, I'll throw that in the chat so that you can read about it. What we know is that people have said, that they care about preventable chronic disease. This is what they've said now. They have said that they care about mental health. This is what they've said. They've said that they care about the high cost of care. This is what they've said. They've said that they care about diabetes and obesity, mostly framed in the issue of food and how food is sort of generated and that sort of thing. But these are the things they've said they care about. But if you read through the sort of tenets and the infrastructure of that Make America Healthy Again Commission, what they have said is that they want to hear local stories. They want a connection. And every legislator wants to know that they're speaking with someone who votes, that they're speaking with someone who lives in their district, in their catchment area. Okay? And your ability to make a connection with that health staffer, with the person in that office, is critical. And you don't have a lot of time. Some of the meetings you're going to take in the hallway. I'm just telling you now. So if you imagine you're going to be sitting at a table every time with a cup of water, legs crossed, feeling comfortable, sometimes you're going to arrive at the office and that staffer is going to walk out of the office and say, "Walk with me." And you have to walk with them to the elevator, and this is your opportunity to speak. So you have to be ready. Okay? Israel is saying, oh, you met with someone to discuss substance abuse. Yes, mental health is a priority. This is what folks have said in this administration. Well, guess what? The great news is community health workers always desire to move upstream. We always desire to prevent. There's not a one of you that only wants to wait until there's an acute issue, until someone needs Narcan, until someone is in the emergency room. I can't imagine one of you that wants to wait until the state of that person is such that they could lose their life. We are always trying to move upstream, so much so that we are experts not only in service delivery, diabetes, immunization, oral health, right? Cardiovascular disease. Not only that, but we're also expert to understand why it is that people can't access those services. And your ability to break all of that down and talk about how you move upstream, talk about how you lower the cost of care. You may or may not have all the ROI and all of the data. No, you can speak from the human perspective. You can talk about people you know who had to choose between buying food or paying their light bill. And the fact that you were able to get them into a service to pay their light bill allowed them to purchase food, or vice versa. You can tell those real concrete stories that will allow people to get a human perspective on the work that we do. Okay? Show your value and make a connection. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Denise. I think this is the time when we're all really trying to really come to terms with the why we're doing this, the why of our stories, how we have to pivot, the flexibility and what is needed in this moment. And that is such important words. So thank you so much for that. In addition to, Denise did such a great job of of describing kind of the atmosphere when we're there and how we need to react. Soapbox has prepared a really good training to help walk us through what should we do when we're in these meetings, right? What's set up for us to feel equipped when we are attending the legislative meeting, especially for folks that are attending for the first time. So I am going to invite now Soapbox, Christopher, and Kevin to join us to review a little bit about an amazing training that they have set up for us to help walk us through those steps. Christopher?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I would like to give a shout out to the people who were here last year. So last year, we begged you to come to Washington, D.C. A lot of you was your first time going up to Capitol Hill, having these legislative meetings. And guess what? You formed relationships. Turns out we need to use those relationships. So last year, the people who came and started on that building of relationships with their members of Congress, I bet you, and I certainly could have predicted, that you never thought how badly we would have needed the work you did last year where we're sitting today. So congratulations, folks who came last year and who decided to come again. You have created for us a very powerful tool. There is an argument that is very strong in every legislative office, and it's this one. Hi, me again. How are you? You become a constituent and also a community leader that they have to answer to with eye contact. And it creates a tremendous impetus to making sure if they can't make you happy, that they at least slow their roll. So, thank you for the work you did last year. Those of you who have not been to Capitol Hill before, you're going to start building relationships, and we are thrilled to have you with us. I will tell you, I've had a bunch of groups up to the Hill already this year, and Capitol Hill is acting normally in this sphere, meaning the offices are scheduling meetings like they always do. The offices are warm and welcoming to the constituents. There have been productive exchanges, even if there are disagreements. Nothing this year, no meetings between constituents and congressional members of Congress have ended in tears or screaming that I know of so far this year. So I want, if you haven't gone here before, we're not throwing you in to have a big fight with somebody. Nobody's going to be alone, but also the vibe up there seems to be similar, that they want the constituents to feel good, to be heard, to recognize them and invite them into their offices that they share with you on Capitol Hill. For those of you who have been here before, I'd like to tell you something you may not think about, the power of what you've done already, which is that only 15% of Congress is new. So 85% of the House and 85% of the Senate has come back. And yes, some of the power balance has shifted, but 85% of both houses have come back. And I think that's some of our stability in still having access to the questions and to the issues and to that decision-making process. But also to how we come into town. We go right into the office, we talk directly with the people who represent us, and that still exists. You're looking at a map of the meetings that we're scheduling. We've had even some more people register for this event. Remember, when you go into these meetings, if you are represented by somebody who you did not and would not vote for, that is, if you are represented by somebody who belongs to a party that you don't on election day pull the lever for or fill out the circle for, they still represent you. They still represent the people you serve. And so it's incumbent upon us, now that a new session has started, a new Congress has started, we've got to go in this first time and ask for what we need and see if anything on our agenda is what they will agree to help us with, or if everything on our agenda is what they will agree to help us with. But it's required for us in these exchanges that we ask for what we need and that we see and we allow members of Congress, whatever their party is, the chance to respond to that. And in some cases, to surprise us in terms of what they will support. I don't know if you're watching the news lately, but I'll tell you, the only thing that is, well, there's two things saving this country, sort of, holding it over the precipice at least. The judicial system and local pushback and information. So I think by the time you come here, you're going to see a lot of the power that comes from that as well. Next slide. 1 week before the event, that will be March 6th, you will receive an email from Soapbox Consulting that will give you access to the Soapbox mobile tool. The Soapbox mobile tool is not an app. It is a website, so use it on your laptop or your desktop computer. It's fine. It lets you see your preliminary schedule. We will ask you to respond directly to us if you have any questions, comments, or needs, mobility issues, if your plans have changed, anything like that. If somebody else from your office will be joining us instead of you. So please, on the 6th, take a look at your preliminary schedule, see what you've got so far. The mobile tool stays accurate in real time, and as Denise told us, there are changes. There are always changes on Capitol Hill. So it's a dynamic environment. So we're going to be cool with that, but you can't just take your meetings and transfer them to your Outlook. You've got to continue to use the mobile tool because things can and do change. Once you get to town, I'll show you how you use your mobile tool to leave feedback from your meetings. If anything changes while you are on Capitol Hill, you will get a push notification from us once you've logged into the mobile tool. Next slide. Some people just hate using their cell phone for everything. It's people like me. There's a certain age that I find that we all don't like using our cell phones for just about everything. So when you get to town, you're going to get a printed copy of your schedule that's going to have a printed map of Capitol Hill. It's going to tell you all sorts of things like key committees and if somebody's new in this Congress. So there's going to be a lot of really great information printed out. It's all in your mobile tool as well. But you must come to that briefing because we're going to ask you to meet the people you're going to your meetings with. Nobody's going to be alone, but you got to take a minute and plan and meet each other before you walk into that first meeting. So you're going to do that, and you're going to check in with us one last time to make sure you show up to an office that we have you scheduled for. I heard somebody mention this as well, and I would like to underscore it. We're going up to the Hill to have business meetings with local information about serious matters. An office that doesn't fully understand us would love to say, well, I had a meeting and they didn't even show up. It really can hurt you if you think Capitol Hill is just, it's just if I want to, or they're just office hours. This isn't that. This is you playing a part in raising your voice and the voices of people who can't raise their own voices to try and save something that is nothing less than a gift in this world. So I want you to understand that before you come to town. You got to go to the meetings. You got to let go of how, you know, these meetings are going to be pushed around a little bit and things are going to be dynamic because we're there and they're expecting us to be there and to be part of this discussion. Next slide. But you're going to save the world. I want to let you know that. So it's going to be worth it. Some things to think about. I would say you know 85% of what we're going to have you say in these offices, even if you've never been in a legislative meeting. And the reason that I say that is because you're here to be local. You're here to talk about what you do. You're here to let these offices see what goes on at home as a result of your work. That's going to be the thing that we need you in town for. That it's not about talking policy and every possible stat you can throw at them. It's about making them care about these issues. And you make them care by making it local. So that's why we beg you to come to town. And that's why every single person says, we are so happy you are here. You are the secret sauce. To prepare for those exchanges, we're going to make sure you're comfortable and we're going to give you all the background once you come to town. But to prepare, I want you to think of two things. I want you to think of bringing in each pocket, your left pocket and right pocket, these two kind of pieces of information that I've shown you here. One, in your left pocket, bring a couple stats about your organization. Please don't bring any super impressive numbers like million, billion, trillion. I want real numbers. How many people served? Is it 257 this month? Is it 5,362 every week? Number of people served, number of employees in your organization, that is, number of quality jobs your organization provides in the community. The services you provide, just a list that you're ready to articulate, and also the communities you serve locally. So I'm looking for a couple real data points about you locally. And again, doesn't have to perfectly light up our issues. It's got to be the numbers. What gets their attention is somebody says the number 265, they're listening because they know that number is real. If that's the size of your workforce, there's 265 good jobs at home, saving other people's lives, they're never going to forget it. So four facts about your organization. And then the other part is if you could bring to town the story of one client. You're not going to share their last name. You're not going to share their social security number or their credit card information. One real life person that you and your work has impacted in the last month. I'd like you to be able to describe that person and just share something real. Let's provide a window on what it looks like at home. So each of these things. So your client's going to be in your right pocket. A couple facts about your work are going to be in your left pocket. I want both of those things to be less than 1 minute. These meetings are fast, but these meetings can be super helpful to us if we have both of those pieces of information ready to go. Okay, I'm going to turn it back to Catherine, I think is leading us through, but please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you so much,
Oh,
Christopher.
sorry, Catherine, please.
I was just thanking Christopher. Back to you, Allie.
Oh,
I
sorry,
was gonna
Allie.
do the same. No, it's totally okay. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, folks, we have 22 more minutes and we know we have more to share. We know you have more questions. We also know you've been sitting and listening for over an hour to incredible information. So we're gonna take a quick stretch. If you've done it before, you're welcome in. If it's new, this I'm calling the CHW stretch. I rename it every time. Okay, everyone, get in a comfortable position. Please. Seated, standing, whatever feels good for your body. Please reach up high for your high goals. This is investment in the CHW workforce, federal policies that support CHWs and our asks. Reach down for your grassroots. These are the CHW stories that you're bringing with you to DC, the people you're representing, your organization, your community. Now reach left and right. If we were in the room together, we'd be touching each other. Reach left and right for your friends, your colleagues, your comrades. Don't forget about yourself. Please, thank you very much. Please give yourself a big hug. Please, thank you. And shake it out for CHWs. Okay, one more time, quick. Reach up for your high goals. Reach down for your grassroots. Reach left and right for your allies. Don't forget about it yourself. Please give yourself a hug and shake it out for CHWs. Now that was health. Thank you very much. Lucas.
Thank you, Allie. Okay, so you've gotten some homework, and thank you, Christopher, for that So left pocket, that local information. Right pocket, those local stories. So these are the most important thing you can share in these meetings with legislators. And it's the part that only you can bring. We can't tell those stories like you can. And that's why it's so powerful that you're coming to DC, that you're having these meetings in person. So once you've given that to them in the meetings, and again, we'll have another training about how to do that, how to plan for the meeting, what the order should be, introductions, then the story, then the ask. We'll get into that when we're in DC. But again, once you've given this local information, these local stories, and the legislative staff or legislator, a light bulb goes off, they see the light. Wow, community health workers are amazing. What can I do to support you? Support community health workers, because this is the workforce we need for the world we want. I'm on board. Tell me what to do. These are the 3 policy solutions or asks that we're going to be pushing for on March 11th. This is just a preview, and you don't need to be an expert. We're going to provide you with talking points and a 1-pager and all of the resources you need. So, but we do want to give a preview so you can hear it first today and then hear it again later. So we'll be advocating for 2 pieces of community health worker legislation that NACHW and Partners in Health US have been working on for the last 2 years. A resolution to recognize the 3rd annual National Community Health Worker Awareness Week at the end of August, and a bill called the Community Health Worker Access Act. And then thirdly, we're going to be playing some defense, because we have our proactive pieces of legislation, numbers 1 and 2, that we're going to be asking for them to support. That's what we want to see. But we also know in this environment that Congress is considering some really harmful things that could harm our communities. And so part of the message too needs to be to protect those programs on which our communities rely, on which community health workers' sustained funding in many cases relies. So the third ask will be asking our legislators, do not cut Medicaid. And again, it's just so important. Like Christopher said, hearing from local constituents that we don't need that, we don't need Medicaid cuts, we don't support it. That's what's going to prevent that from happening. And we're already seeing it start to work. So going in a little bit more detail on the 3 now. The Community Health Worker Awareness Week resolution is a resolution which is different from a bill. It doesn't change laws or funding, but it's still very important. In 2023, during the first ever National Community Health Worker Awareness Week that NACHW created and led, we got Congress to introduce a formal resolution in the House and Senate that recognizes community health workers. It goes through NACHW's 6 pillars, the C3 core roles. It encourages collaboration at the state, local, and federal levels to raise awareness of the important work of community health workers and celebrate CHWs. So we want to reintroduce this again in 2025 with even more support than we've gotten in the last 2 years. And in March, we're going to be getting a head start on asking our members of Congress to support that resolution to grow that support. So that's what that's all about. Again, we'll hear more about it later. The CHW Access Act is a bill to improve reimbursement for community health workers in Medicare and Medicaid. And Medicare is a nationwide health insurance program for people 65 and older. Medicaid is the state-based health insurance program providing coverage for over 70 million people in this country, more than 1 in 5 people, including adults with low incomes, children, pregnant women, and many, many more. And I know many of you have advocated state by state for state progress on Medicaid funding, and this bill would support all of that at the national level. So those are the things we're pushing for. What we're pushing against, again, is proposals to cut Medicaid and cut federal funding for Medicaid that would cause people to lose coverage. And so it's just so important to hear that message too. And so why are we providing these asks? The point of these Hill days like this is to have sort of a consistent, unified message for the collective impact. So there might also be sort of specific state issues that you'd also like to raise, and or different national issues even. And we would just ask that you build the relationship in this meeting and schedule a follow-up meeting with that office on other issues, just because it's so important that on this day we have this collective impact on these asks that have been selected by NACHW, informed by community health workers, so that we can all have this impact on these areas that we've said, this is how we're going to make progress this year, even though it's a tough climate. So again, you could see on the slides some of the goals of the meetings. By the end, everyone's going to know these policy asks and how they can support CHWs. They're going to learn who CHWs are, or hear it again if they've learned it already. They're going to hear that compelling story, and they're going to have resources that we're going to provide you so that they can review going forward for that continued impact. And just, they're going to know you, and that's going to continue to have impact. So I'll pass it back to Allie.
Okay, thank you. We know we don't have too much time, so these slides are coming your way with a lot of information, and we will practice in DC. So it's mostly important that you all keep checking your inbox for information, and you will be spammed over the next few weeks by us. I'm sorry in advance, but also you're welcome for all the information. So, few things. Denise and Christopher talked about this, so I'm not going to go deeply. You were meeting with a legislator, which means it's time to research them if you already don't know about them. It's okay if you don't agree on everything, but you want some connection points. Some good ways to research legislators: just search their name on Google and see whatever you want on there. You can see their voting records, their policy priorities, recent news. It's particularly helpful to search on Google their name and then the issues you care about. So in this case, it would be Senator Thune, community health. Senator Thune, healthcare workforce. Health care, public health, things like that, and you can see what's going on. Again, you don't have to speak to everything. You don't have to be an expert in every policy and bill number, etc., but you will be well versed in our asks, which Lucas just went over, and most importantly, you are well versed in a CHW story, your story. That's the most important. Speaking of your stories, over the next few weeks, we would love if you could take some time practicing your story. Of course, you know your story better than anyone, but if you had 2 minutes to share what CHWs do, why they're important, and why a legislator should figure out how the government can support CHWs, what do you want them to know? What will they go home that night? It's been a long day at work, just like the rest of them, just like the rest of us, I mean. What do you want them to remember when they're laying there thinking about their day, about their constituents, about what they need to do the next day at work? So you'll reflect over the next few weeks, thinking of your goal. What story demonstrates why they should support our policy asks, why they should not support cuts to Medicaid, why they should co-sponsor the CHW Access Act, why they should sign the CHW Awareness Week resolution. These are really important. This is your personal story. Be authentic, speak from the heart. We will provide you in our talking points with some data, some numbers that back up why these asks are so important. And your stories can be visual, paint a pic. When I was in my town of XYZ doing this, make it personal. And we'll practice more on the 10th. Some questions and prompts to think on, and I again will send this your way, are these questions. Who's a community member whose health and well-being you helped improve? Tell about a time you worked with a community member to help them prevent, manage, or treat their illness. Tell a story that demonstrates how sustained sources of funding can support the work you do, or a story about how uncertain or unstable funding has impacted your work. These are really important things to reflect on. Again, we'll practice more and you'll get some spam. Okay, things to pay attention to. I said, check your email inbox. You, over the next few weeks, will see emails mostly from Catherine, Angie, myself, and Lucas. If you have questions, we were debating how to help you, who can do what. Instead, we decided just email the four of us, CC us, and we will decide who responds, who can answer what. It's better to ask all of us and someone can be there, so we are there for you. Another thing, we have optional office hours every Friday. Well, I guess the next 2 Fridays until we're in DC. This is February 28th and March 7th, 6th, whatever the Friday is. It's in your calendar at 2 p.m. Eastern. It's optional. You don't have to come, but if you want to, come hang. Soapbox has a help desk. We'll send you that number. And then NACHW will have a website for the 3rd annual CHW Capitol Hill visit with more info. But most importantly, just email the four of us and we'll get back to you.
And I just want to quickly say, in our open office hours today, somebody had a good question. What if I want to give my legislator a heads up that I'm coming? I met with them last week or I saw them at an event. Great. Let them know we are coming to DC. Let them know you will be there. You know,
Let me jump in here,
Oh,
Catherine.
yes, go ahead,
Can't do that.
Christopher.
So we're scheduling your meetings, and that could have the impact of derailing the conversations we're having. So we're going to ask you to do a thank you after you go there. But they know you're coming. We're scheduling for you. They're absolutely certain you are going to walk through the door and they have an accurate roster. But we'll ask you if it's more urgent than that, you can give us a call at the help desk. But we'll ask you to let us finish our work so that everything gets scheduled. Sorry.
Oh, that's great. So whoever I told to do that, don't do that. According to her, do not do that. Thank you, Christopher, for that clarification. Really, really important. And again, to underscore Ali's point, I know everybody was emailing me just as you should at the beginning, but it's really hard to navigate out of, 200 plus emails a day. So emailing the four of us is the best option. I want to make sure I'm not missing anybody. And also please check your spam boxes because a lot of folks that have emailed saying they haven't gotten communication, when they check their spam, boo, I'm in there. So I'm gonna make sure you're getting the information. If you have questions about the hotel, about booking the second night, definitely reach out to me. This is the week to do so, since we are finalizing all of those logistics by Friday, the 28th. That's all I had.
I am going to ask you all to get out your phones and take a picture of this slide. So you can look in your spam to see, hey, did Catherine email me? You can look to see if we've gotten you. And you can reach out to us with these email addresses, CC the four of us, and we will help you. So I hope I'm seeing everyone taking some pics. If I'm in it, hello. Okay, we have a few minutes left and it is some time for Q&A. So please, yes, you'll get a copy of these slides. You'll get a copy of this recording. You should have signed the terms and conditions already, but we'll send that again to you. You should have filled out the pre-event survey, but we'll send that again to you. You will get the digital copies of the materials. I think and you'll be getting emails from us. Sorry. And yes, I said take a picture so you can have these because in case it goes into your spam, then you don't have these. Okay.
The preliminary schedules are March 6th. You'll get your mobile tool code via email.
Thank you. Okay, folks, please start raising your hand and we can answer your questions.
and I know a few folks have just messaged me privately asking me about if you have to stay at the Marriott Hotel. If you are not a scholarship recipient, you can make your own accommodations. But we are all, the meeting space that we reserved during the times we went over in the agenda, those will be at the Marriott, and you don't have to stay at the Marriott to be able to attend those parts of the agenda.
Great, thanks, Catherine. That seemed to
So-
help a lot of things.
If we got the email that we did get one night scholarships and we want to do that alignment, I was on the office hours, but I think it kicked us out because we were at time because I could barely get in there. I'm just trying to figure out how my second night gets aligned because an organization sponsored my second night, but they said they put it under my name.
Yeah, Regina, if you can send me an email, I know I was trying to stay on to answer your
Okay.
questions.
Yeah,
Send me an
it kicked me
email,
out.
and I will absolutely respond to you by early next week, and
Okay.
we'll get that set up for you.
Okay. And just one more question on the logistic. It's walking distance for us for the Capitol from that hotel.
Yeah, it's a healthy walk.
Okay.
So yeah, probably maybe like 20 minutes, 25. So some folks might prefer to take a car.
And what is the do y'all have any forecasting for weather right now? I know they mentioned a little bit chilly,
I don't.
like
We can
any
share.
native DCans.
DC that time of the year has kind of been a mix. I've been there before when I've needed a coat and scarf, and last year I was just wearing a blazer and I was hot. So also I was running around frantically, so maybe that's just my own internal body temperature. So yeah, we'd say pay attention to your inbox also for the packing list. I mean, it's not a requirement, but just some suggestions on what to bring, like business cards, type of attire, etc. DC, walking around the hill is a lot of walking. If there are accessibility needs that we need to know about, please email the four of us and we will support you. But wear comfortable walking shoes. I know that's kind of weird because you're also meeting with legislators and you're like, oh, I need to look professional, but it's okay to also be wearing comfortable shoes. We don't want any, I don't know, plantar fasciitis out of here. Hotel address again, I will show it again. We'll put it in the chat and it'll also be in your inbox. Folks are putting some thoughts in the chat. Okay, I'll answer some questions and reiterate some things in the chat. Looking up the representative for what they vote or against. Should it be CHW related or healthcare related?